Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and it's lovely to have you join me. Now, are you finding that you're lacking in energy, but when you go to the doctor they say everything's fine? Are you not getting the most out of your life? Today my guest is Dr Libby Wilson. She's the owner of Best Life Functional Medicine and has been working for over 20 years as a doctor. We're going to be talking about finding energy to do all you have to do as well as all the things you want to do. We're talking about getting out of survival mode to thrive, and how to get beyond the line of fine. Your physical is normal. Now what? We're also going to be talking about 2 systems to optimize and unleash your endless energy. Dr. Libby is the author of The Path of Intention, 5 Habits to Optimize Your Health and Create a Life You Love. And wouldn't we like to all do that? So let's go and join the conversation and see what we can learn today about improving our energy levels to enjoy life. Welcome, Dr. Libby Wilson, to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm delighted to have you join me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Well, we are going to be talking about how we can we're going to be talking about a lot of things actually today, but to do with our energy levels and also a couple of points where, the doctor might be telling us that we're fine, but we feel that there's something not fine. So I'm looking forward to that. But what I wanted to do first was introduce you or get you to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and you're the founder of the Best Life Functional Medicine. So I'd just like you to start off by sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So I'm Dr. Libby Wilson, and I was a family doctor, a general practitioner for about 15 years. And, medicine was never really what I thought it was going to be. I had this dream as a young child of going to medical school and learning how to help people be really healthy. And what I realized when I got out of all of that training that I went through, that I really didn't know a whole lot about how to do that. What I was really good at was diagnosing problems and assigning a prescription drug to the problem that I diagnosed and doing that as quickly as possible. It was diagnose, prescribe, get into the next room, diagnose, prescribe, get into the next room. And there was a lot I loved about medicine. I loved getting to know the patients and I loved the relationships that I was creating with the patients, but it wasn't really fulfilling my passion that I had gone into medicine to begin with. And so after several years, I found functional medicine. I had never heard of functional medicine through my conventional training. And I found it actually out of necessity. My own daughter was having some medical problems that I couldn't address as a general practitioner. And I found the answers for her stomach problems in functional medicine. And when I found functional medicine, I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I've been looking for my whole entire life. And I jumped in with both feet to learn everything I possibly could about functional medicine and started a functional medicine practice that I then transitioned to fully a few years back. And now I have a practice, Best Life Functional Medicine, where I love to work with women, especially women, as they're hitting around age 50, when they've raised their family and they all of a sudden have time to maybe take care of themselves and they realize, maybe I want some more for my life. And so that is what I specialize in and love to do now. And that was sort of the way I got there.
Yeah, that sounds good. So you mentioned functional medicine. Now I'm familiar because I'm a personal trainer. I'm familiar with the term functional fitness. So I wondered if you could just, but not a lot of people understand it when you say
Yes.
that. So I wondered if you could just give a brief explanation of what the functional medicine is.
Absolutely. So functional medicine is all about getting to the root cause of what's causing you to feel less than optimal. So it's, conventional medicine is very much about diagnosing the problem and then using a Band-Aid kind of solution to manage the problem. Whereas functional medicine is looking deeper, figuring out why is the body responding that way, and how can we get to the root level to fix it and actually make it go away. It's not a quick process, but it can be very transformative and very healing. And so it's not asking what is wrong. It's more like, why is the body responding this way to begin with? And, I believe that the body is designed to feel amazing. And when it doesn't, there's always a reason. And if it hasn't been found, we haven't looked hard enough, and so that's how I approach it. So, in conventional medicine, we use these codes to build the insurance. And here in the US, there's, I think, 72,000 codes that we can assign to a patient of the 72,000 things that could possibly go wrong with them. In functional medicine, I believe there's like 4 to 8 things that kind of are the root cause of most problems. And, we start looking at those root causes. And I think of it like we remove what's preventing the body from functioning optimally and we replace what's missing that's keeping the body from functioning optimally. And if we find those things and allow the body to heal, it's pretty amazing what can happen.
Because I know often we go to the doctor, and I myself, I'll go and have my checkup once or twice a year, and I get the full bloods taken and that sort of thing. And I just recently had one actually, and I was sort of thinking, I don't think this is going to be very good results. And it came back and they said, oh, you're excellent. You're in excellent health. And, because I'll be 66 this year, you're in excellent health and just keep doing what you're doing. But sometimes I don't feel well. I don't feel like I've got that energy that I'm supposed to have because I'm in good health, so they suggest. But so I think it's what you termed here about, you go for your physical and that comes back normal, or they're very happy with you, but you're not quite feeling great. So now what? What do you do then?
That is exactly what I specialize in taking care of. That was me too. When I turned maybe 40, that's how I felt too. I remember going in to see one of my colleagues for a physical because I didn't feel terrible, but I didn't feel super great either. I was pushing harder. I was able to get up every morning and go to work, and I go to the gym and work out, and I was doing all the have-tos in my life. But when the evening came and all the have-tos were done, I didn't have much energy to want to do anything else. And I also found myself feeling a little, I don't know, maybe irritable and moody and a little maybe snippy with my family. I mean, not depressed or anything terribly wrong, but I just felt not great. And I went in for my physical, and, they listen to your heart and lungs, look in your ears and your throat and tap on some reflexes. And then I get the call the next day when the blood work comes back, everything looks great. Keep doing what you're doing. And I think as a patient, there's always this initial relief. It's like, oh, good. Like they didn't find anything terrible. Like there's nothing that's indicating cancer or any really serious disease. They're not recommending lots of prescription medicines. There's like some relief. But then it's followed by, oh, well, if everything's great, then apparently we can't do anything to make me feel any better. And that was the exact scenario I found myself in. And after I had found functional medicine and learned some of these techniques as I was helping my daughter cure her stomach issues that she was having, I thought, I wonder if some of this stuff would work for someone like me. And I knew I wasn't alone because I saw patients just like me and just like you every day in the office. And I was sensing that there was something we were missing, but I just didn't know from my training what that could possibly be. And so now I know that it's often one of two main things that are kind of lurking beneath the surface that are happening before overt disease develops. And if we can identify those and fix it, two things happen. One is we feel better now. I mean, we start to just feel vibrant and vivacious and alive, but it's also foundational to preventing disease and further problems from happening into the future. And what I find that to be oftentimes is the adrenals are definitely not as optimal as we'd like them to be. You know, we live in a very, very stressful world, and our bodies are really designed to handle acute stress, and they do so very well. But what we're under now today is chronic stress, you know, just doing all the things. And a lot of that chronic stress comes from just emotional stress of just our daily lives. But there are hidden stressors too, coming from our gut and from the toxins that we're exposed to. And all of this is adding up and just creating too much of a demand on our adrenals. And the body basically purposely chooses to almost deprioritize sex hormone production in favor of cortisol production because it's responding as if we're in danger. And this makes our hormones all over the place, and we just don't feel well. And identifying that and optimizing the adrenals is one of the keys to really starting to feel great again.
And I suppose too, when you throw in menopause, that you know, a lot of times there you go to the doctor and they'll just want to put you on medication, or you know, they brush it aside because, to be frank, not a lot of general practitioners really know a lot about menopause, and so they tend to just want to write a prescription without trying to, you know, and I'm sort of thinking perhaps what you're talking about might help women who are going through that stage of life as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really works for all ages of women. You know, when we go through menopause, you make your sex hormones in your ovaries as females, but also in your adrenal glands. And as you near menopause, the ovaries really quit producing the hormones, but the adrenals still do. And so just supporting that adrenals helps women of all ages, whether they're cycling regularly or they're perimenopausal or they're menopausal. I do strongly believe in bioidentical hormone replacement for women after they've gone through menopause too. And sometimes that combination of that along with the adrenal support can really be transformative. But the root cause of a lot of hormonal issues is the adrenals, and getting those to function well really can help people feel like themselves again. I mean, it really can be very, very transformative. And it was my own journey. You know, I was somebody who was super healthy. I, got that A+ from my doctor for my physical. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll see you in a year. And when I tested my adrenals, I realized they were terrible. They weren't just a little bit off. They were really, really in a bad state of affairs. It took me about a year to heal them, actually. But by healing them, I was able to really transform my hormones too, without ever taking hormones. But just fixing that root cause actually got the hormones back into normal levels. It was pretty amazing.
And so how would you go about, treating the adrenal issue?
Absolutely. So first of all, we have to identify it, and we do that through a saliva test. This is not a typical test that a regular doctor will order, but it's called a 4-point saliva test that a lot of functional medicine doctors will order, and you do it in your own home. You collect saliva 4 different times through the day, and it tells us what your cortisol is at 8 a.m. and noon and around 4 p.m. and then right before bedtime. And then it also tests your DHEA, which is a precursor to your sex hormones. And what I usually find in people with adrenal fatigue, which conventional medicine doesn't even believe is a real thing, honestly, but I'll tell you, I know it's real because I've seen it time and time again, and it always works when we fix it. But patients that have an adrenal issue, they have a lower than optimal DHEA. And that's another thing in functional medicine. I look for not just normal but optimal. There's this huge range of normal. And my
Yes.
patients, they want a lot for their, they put a lot of effort into their health. They're exercising and they're eating right. And they're doing all the stuff. They want to feel not just okay, but great. So we look at the optimal ranges. So we want the DHEA to be optimal. And then we want that cortisol rhythm to be optimal too. But yes, there are lots of things you can do to fix it. I use some micro doses of hormonal precursors that I prescribe for patients based on what their test results show. But then we also use things like adrenal adaptogens, which is a supplement that you can buy over the counter. We use some high doses of vitamin C because you need vitamin C to produce cortisol. I use, some B vitamins, specifically vitamin B5 is really critical for adrenal health. B6 also. And we use some blood sugar stabilizers as well, alpha lipoic acid specifically being one. And then, of course, we work on lifestyle, because unless we do something to limit our stress in our life, even if we fix it with all these supplements, it will come right back. And, I was somebody who, I've always been a pretty hard charging gal. I got up early in the morning and would do a pretty crushing workout. And then I would go off to the office and see 30 patients. Then I'd come home to my 2 small children and take care of them. I was like burning the candle at both ends. And when I discovered the state of affair of my adrenals, it was like a permission slip to prioritize rest and to, if I didn't feel like it, not to do it as my body healed. And so I still kept exercising, but not getting up at 4:30 in the morning to get a really hard workout in before I went for a long day at the office. I realized I had to prioritize my sleep, and I had to learn to listen to my body a little bit more. And so that was a big, big part of it as well.
Yes, it's the value of sleep and quality sleep is something that's very important, isn't it? And I struggle with that myself. So I know that usually by the end of the week, I'm starting to struggle if I haven't been sleeping well. And I think you sort of get into a habit with that too, so you have to try and improve the quality of your sleep, because that's when your body is restoring and your muscles are restoring and everything's happening while you're getting that quality sleep. So it's important, as you say, to listen to your body. Now, the other system you were talking about is mitochondrial health. And you suggest that that's the secret to optimal health and longevity. That's what we all want, isn't it? So would you be able to tell us a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely. Yeah. So mitochondria are inside of your cells, and it's where your energy is produced. And, we need energy to feel energy, so to have our most abundant energy and vibrant health. But your body runs on energy. So energy is what makes your brain work. It's what makes your liver detoxify toxins. It's what makes your kidneys work, and your heart and your muscles. Your whole entire body runs on energy. And so if these mitochondria aren't optimized, then everything can suffer. The effects can be so many. And the mitochondria is where you take the food you eat, your fats, carbs, and protein, and convert that into energy. And there's a lot of necessary nutrients needed to make that process run as effectively as possible. Specifically, amino acids and B vitamins are 2 of the biggies that are needed to fuel this process. And so if you haven't been getting adequate nutrients in your diet, then these pathways can't perform at the optimal level. Now, our bodies are really smart. We have more than one way to do things. And so if we can't go down these optimal pathways, we shift to a suboptimal pathway, but that produces less energy. And so you have to eat more food to get energy, or you start to feel more tired and your systems don't work nearly as well. And so what we want to do when we assess the mitochondria is, how well are those optimal cycles working, and what nutrients specifically are we missing that's keeping our cycle from performing optimally? And, I tell people too, when it comes to diet, we have to pick the right food. That alone is hard enough, right? Because there's so many really delicious choices out there that aren't maybe necessarily the best nutritional choices, but we have to overcome that obstacle. But then after we've chosen the right food, we have to digest it properly. So you need to have adequate digestive enzymes. You need to chew it properly. You need to be in this calm state while you're eating. All of these things can affect our digestion. But then we also have to have a healthy gut to be able to absorb those nutrients across a healthy gut lining. And so there's a lot of places where things can go wrong. And so, making sure that we're getting those optimal nutrients in our diet and that our gut is absorbing them and we're breaking them down properly is how we make sure the mitochondria are doing their job. And if we can get the mitochondria functioning optimally, we have endless energy to fuel all of our systems of our body. And this helps to prevent the formation of chronic disease.
And that's what we want. The gut has become, and good gut health has become much more, what can I say, popular or out there in media these days. I'm not sure many of us would have even known what gut health was 5 years ago, but now it seems to be quite prominent in ensuring that we do have good gut health. And that's, I suppose, from a healthy diet, but I think that would be something that you cover as well in your...
It absolutely is. As a matter of fact, when I work with patients one-on-one, I walk them through this. I think about it like this: the body breaks down sort of in a predictable manner. And so I follow that same path as I'm trying to help people heal it. And so we start with the adrenals and we get a good foundation. People feel so much better as we restore those. And then we look at the gut, and I do a stool analysis where we test who's living in the gut. We look at the good gut bacteria. We call that the microbiome. There's good gut bacteria that can be doing really good things for you. And then we also look at potential bad gut bacteria that can be creating a lot of inflammation. And we work on trying to get rid of the bad ones and optimizing the good ones. And then we move on to looking at the mitochondria and the energy production cycle and seeing what needs to be addressed there. And sometimes I've experimented with doing them all these tests at one time, but it's a little bit overwhelming. A lot to throw at somebody all at once. And so I usually spend about 3 months on each of these phases. And we customize some supplement recommendations for each patient, depending on what their individual lab tests show. And then the other thing that everybody can do, because this kind of care is not easily accessible to a lot of people, but working on lifestyle, and this is something I know you talk about, but I think, I first, you mentioned functional fitness. I go to a CrossFit class regularly, and that's all functional fitness too. And I remember one day when I was still a family doctor, I had gone to the gym in the morning like I always did. And there was a poster hanging up in the gym that had not been there the day before. The owner had gotten it and hung it up. And it said, the 5 factors of health: diet, exercise, sleep, mindset, and relationships. And I was learning functional medicine at this time too. And I thought, that is so true. That is the key to health. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave here. This is what I'm doing for myself, but I'm going to leave here and rush to work, and I'm going to get out my prescription pad and prescribe prescriptions all day. And it just felt so wrong to me. And I remember deciding that day, I am going to figure out how to do this differently. And so I work on those factors with my patients too. And we try to dial those all in, and they're all equally important. I used to think diet and exercise were the most important and the other ones were like minimally important, but now I don't. I think they're all incredibly important. And I wrote a book about this exact same thing. I
was going to bring that up. Is that the path of intention?
It is.
And
yes.
the 5 habits to optimize your health and create a life you love.
Yes. And that book was co-written with Nathan Long, who is the owner of the gym that had hung the poster up in the gym. And so we, this was maybe a couple of years after that happened, but we collaborated on the book idea and came up with that book together. And it's been a really fun project to work on.
Yeah. So that's based on, because I haven't actually read the book, but that's based on the 5 areas that you mentioned
It
about
is.
exercise, eating well, sleep, mindset, and
Relationships.
relationships. Yeah, that's something that is so, it covers all the areas, doesn't it? And as you say, a lot of us tend to focus on, um, oh, I'm just going to keep fit. So we
Hmm.
just focus on the exercise, but we
Yes.
don't realize that everything that we do is all intertwined in our body. So it's not just the exercise, it's the what we put into our body to fuel it and to, keep us healthy. It's the sleep, as I mentioned before, where if you don't get good quality sleep, that you're behind the 8 ball. And especially if you're you know well, it's important at whatever age you are, but if
Hmm.
you're perhaps younger, you might be a mum, and you might be a mum working as well, or you might be just in a career or whatever. If you're still in that period of your life, it's go 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 there, and your sleep is just so important because, as you said, by the end of the day, you're exhausted with everything you've done. If you don't have a good quality sleep, you've got to turn around and do it all again the next day. And
Yeah.
it becomes, I think, as you termed, the survival mode
Hmm.
rather than thriving.
Absolutely. In the book, we talk about it sort of like a bank account. Everything that you do good for your health is like a deposit in your
Yeah.
health account. So every time you go to the gym and you exercise, deposit. Every time you choose that healthy salad with, all of the phytonutrients, deposit. When you get that good 8 hours of sleep, deposit. When you eat the donuts and the junk food and you have some alcohol and you fight with your spouse, withdraw, right? And
Yeah.
and what I think is, we not all of our steps need to be forward. We don't have to be perfect every single choice we make every single day. I'm certainly not, but we need to be making more deposits than withdrawals to be moving
Yes.
on a forward path. And what we talk about in the book is we have there's 2 neighbors, and these are kind of fictional people, but sort of based on lots of people we've known in our life. And one couple is consistently putting a lot of deposits in day in and day out, and their neighbors are their friends, and they want to be doing that, and they try, but they just have a hard time sticking to it. And what I have found is it's the compound effect. Those small, consistent daily actions repeated over time lead to huge benefits. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it's working, in the short term, but when it
Mm.
compounds over time, the results are really dramatic.
Yes, and I love that analogy of the bank account because I'm thinking, gosh, there'd be a lot of people that might be bankrupt at the moment instead,
Yes.
and in an overdraft situation, overdrawn, rather than building it up. But as you say, I think we've got to change our mindset as well,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, I try to keep fit and healthy, and people who follow me know that I still run. I didn't start running till I was 50, but I'm still running and I'm still doing marathons or half marathons, and I don't expect other people to do that. But for me, that's a goal, and
Mm-hmm.
so I that helps me to ensure that I get my exercise in. But also with the exercise, I know that I have to do strength training to keep my body strong, my bones strong, and to
Absolutely.
prevent osteoporosis, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
But some days it's harder than others. And,
Mm-hmm.
as we said before, if you're working and you've got a family, it can be almost impossible to try and get it in. But even if you just did 5 or 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the mindset that we've got to go and do a full on hour workout,
Mm-hmm.
or we've got to just eat lettuce leaves, or we've got
Mm-hmm.
to, it's finding the way that it's going to work within your life to make those small deposits. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's such a good analogy that you came up with there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to promote that.
It's true. And I used to do a lot of marathons too. And, I still do love to run. And it's kind of, I remember when I shifted to more high intensity interval training, it was hard for me. It was like almost, well, if I don't have enough time to do, it just didn't feel like enough, like a 30-minute workout. Why even bother? Right.
That's right.
Yeah. But really, I mean, it all adds up. And even if it is just 10 minutes, I mean, I think you're better off to do 10 minutes, 7 days in a row than one 70-minute workout and then taking 6 other days off.
That's exactly right. You've got to be moving every day, but
Absolutely.
you don't, you can bring the variety in, and it can be at different intensities. And I love those short, sharp HIIT workouts because you can get so much done in a short time, and you really feel you've had, you've been working your body, you've been exercising, because, long distance running, it takes up a lot of your time. So that's just more of a hobby than, but I think that it's the moving every day, because your body does then become, I think your body and your mind then look forward to it, rather than thinking, okay, I'm just once a week, I'm going to go and do a yoga class, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Then the rest of the week you're sitting down. Well, you're really undoing all you've done in that longer workout. So there's ways around it. And also with eating as well, it's hard. Like, we want to enjoy our life, and I suppose food brings people together, and it's a big social thing as well when you have a lovely meal with someone. But I just found some really healthy recipes, which I normally, we try to be healthy most of the time, but I'll enjoy my treats or whatever. But I've just found some recipes, and they were absolutely delicious. And I thought, well, that's another thing that's changed over time, is the healthy food doesn't have to be boring. And it's just a matter of, doing a little bit of, I don't know, research and a lot of the things I make are they don't take more than half an hour. So that, because that can be another thing too. The time factor comes in with everything, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Yes, you're absolutely right. Healthy food doesn't have to taste terrible. My husband loves to spice everything up. He's always adding
so does mine. Yeah, the chili.
Yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I think like I'm just kind of boring in the way I prepare my food sometimes. But in his defense, it's oftentimes so much more flavorful and much more enjoyable. And if it's more enjoyable, you're going to stick to it longer term. And, I think when I'm not indulging in processed sugar and then I eat an apple, I am just amazed at how delicious the apple tastes. But if I had a handful of M&Ms before I ate the apple, it doesn't taste nearly as good. And so it's all about the moderation. And, back when I was doing a lot of marathons, the one mistake I made, I think I started running after I had my second child. I'd always been a thin person. And so I exercised kind of haphazardly, but never really consistently. And after I had my second child, I had about 10 or 15 pounds that just didn't fall off as quickly as I had wanted to without effort, like it really had with the first child. And so I had picked, my husband was doing some triathlons at the time, and I thought, I'm going to give running a try. And I really fell in love with running, but my main purpose for doing it was to lose weight. And then as I started to fall in love with the running, I realized, oh my goodness, I can maintain my weight with ease, and I can eat a bunch of junk and still maintain my weight. And that's kind of a mistake I see sometimes. I mean, that was a mistake I was making, because when you're engaging in that level of exercise, your body really needs nutrients. I mean, needs high, dense nutrients, because you're creating a lot of oxidative stress from the exercise. So you need antioxidants to combat that. And so nutrition is really, really important for endurance athletes, is making sure they're getting enough vitamins to help their body heal from what they're putting them through. But I sure do love like a good old marathon plan, and the progression. It's just so I don't know, it's so motivating to just be able to go through that whole training process. I really did love doing that.
Yeah, I think so. And there's that sense of satisfaction each time you progress. And Yeah, so for me, that's what I love. But I think as long as people are moving and
Absolutely.
in a variety of ways, that's the most important thing. And we're eating a variety of foods as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
And as I said, it doesn't mean that you can't go out. Say if you're going to a celebration, you can have a piece of cake if you want to, but it's as
Absolutely.
long as it's, again, you're putting more deposits in your bank than you're making withdrawals. And I just love that concept. I know I've said it before, but it's
Yeah.
just so easy to think about, putting that deposit into your health bank. And to me, that's such an easy way to keep you on track, because
Yes.
every time you go something, you think, oh, I want to save up for something. I want to save up for longevity. I
Yes.
don't really want to pull out the money, or I like to see the deposit in my balance in my account.
Yes.
And that's when you probably go for your physical, and you come back and you see, oh wow, I'm rich. I've got a good result there. So that's a good way of doing it. But how do just we're coming to the end of our chat, and I just wondered if there were any other points you wanted to raise, or if you could give us, say, 3 tips that someone who's listening today who isn't really feeling 100% might be able to try, even just today or over the next couple of days, to make that start.
Such a good question. I was going to say this first, like kind of one last thing
Yes.
is, I think, I've done so many 30-day challenges or even like 75-day challenges, like no sugar, and I'm sort of done with that because I can do it. I mean, you give me a challenge, I'm in, I'm doing it. But what happens on day 31, is then I indulge in all the things that I had missed while I was limiting it. And so I tell my patients, and this is what I try to do for myself too, is forever, not fast. What kind of changes can I make in my life that I can stick with forever? And is that never having another piece of cake again ever in my whole entire life? Nope. That is not what it is. So occasionally indulging in those things, but making more good choices than bad choices. And when it comes to a couple of things that you could do, I mean, one is learning to listen to your body. I think I used to be really terrible at this, and now I'm really good at it. I lived in a world of shoulds. You should always do this and you should always do that. And I had very much black and white thinking, like all or nothing, either I'm all in or I'm all out. And, just learning that moderation and what's my body asking me for. And sometimes the plan says run 5 miles, but your body is just not feeling it, and honoring what your body is trying to tell you. I think we need to get out of that constant overdrive, and one simple way of doing this, because this is hard if you've always been in it, how do you even shift out of that? I mean, I am a taskmaster. I love to cross things off my to-do list and get it all done.
Oh
But
my gosh. Yeah,
oh
you're a younger version of me.
yes, absolutely. I'll tell my patients that struggle with this, I'm like, when you sit down to eat your meal, if you can just take 3 deep breaths, just breathe in, the count of 5, and then exhale to the count of 5, and do that 3 times. And just, this is going to calm your body, and get it into the mode of digesting and breaking down your food. And then really think about just chewing your food and just really chewing it, and, helping your digestion process that way. That's going to get you into that rest and digest mode. And you're going to get so much more out of the meal that you're choosing to eat. And then I think the last one I would say would be to really prioritize your sleep. I mean, I think 7 hours minimum is necessary for optimal health, but doing those things will help to heal your adrenals. And I think the challenging part with sleep is if you can't sleep, then you get frustrated that you can't sleep, and then that makes you not sleep even more. I mean, so it can be challenging, but trying very, very hard to get that minimum number of hours of sleep so that your body can heal. That's where our real healing happens, is at the nighttime when we're sleeping. And it's so incredibly important. I used to think, when I was a resident, we would work these really long hours. We would do these 36-hour shifts. And I thought it was a badge of honor to brag about how much I did and how little sleep I got. And now, boy, I am obsessed with my sleep score from my Aura ring. I'm just like, I really want to make sure my sleep is prioritized.
My daughter has one of those rings.
Yes.
And yeah, so Yeah, so that's been great today, because you've really brought up some good points, and of course I will be putting all the links to you in the show notes, and
Great.
the book I would encourage people to read, and for those who want some more information, they can contact you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so before we go today, I do have one question that I ask all of my guests. You may have answered it, but we will try again.
Yeah.
And that is, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
Mm, it's a great question. I think it's making ourselves a priority. I think as women, we are naturally, we're givers, we're caretakers. We want to make sure everyone else is taken care of. And that is a gift. And that's how we are designed and how we are made. But we need to factor ourselves into the equation too. And I
Mm,
find when I factor myself in the equation, when I am taking care of myself, it's not selfish because I so much better take care of everybody else when I'm coming from a good place too. And I think that's really challenging for women to do. I
mm,
really think it is, but I think it's so incredibly important for us to put ourselves first and to really prioritize some self-care for ourselves. And that can look, that can be a variety of different ways, but
mm.
you're worth it. You're designed to feel amazing. And if you don't, there's a reason, and it's worth figuring it out. And you're absolutely worth the effort for sure.
Mm, mm. Yes, I totally agree with that. And, so thank you for joining me today, Dr. Libby. It's been wonderful to meet you, and I've really enjoyed the conversation. I've taken a few notes down as you've been talking, and I'm definitely going to be getting the book and having a read of that, The Path of Intention, 5 Habits to Optimize Your Health and Create a Life You Love, and taking us from just the survival mode into thriving, because that's what we all really want, isn't it? And as you say,
Absolutely.
it's what we deserve. I mean, we have to make the most of the life we're given, so we need to make sure we're looking after ourselves in all areas. So wonderful to chat, and thanks again for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Well, it was great to talk to Dr. Libby Wilson today about finding energy and making sure that if we're not feeling 100% and our physical tests tell us that we need to dig a little bit deeper. We talked about functional medicine and what that is, and the 5 habits to optimize your health and create a life that you love. So I hope that you've enjoyed the episode. I'd love you to leave me a like or a comment, and also share the episode with a friend, because I'm sure this would be very informative. I did love Dr. Libby's idea of having our health as a bank account, a health account. So whenever we're doing our exercise or sleeping well or eating well or doing things that are good for us, we're making deposits. Right, and we're trying to make more deposits than withdrawals. So hope you've enjoyed the episode. That's all there is for this week. So thanks for joining me, and remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.